it seems to make a lot of sense now that we talk about someone's life experience, that if you have negative life experiences with people, it may reflect that you are going to start having negative views of people. Like if for the majority of your life you have only had negative interactions, I mean, there's no reason to really be optimistic about humans. It's easier to, say, well, you never did anything for me, so I have no reason to do anything for you. I will reject society, and I will reject, and I will embrace, something else. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, looking at the personality trait basis for a particular type of prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
And it may well be that people pick up these notions from their family. It may be that children pick them up from what they hear their parents say. It may be that children who are abused have a greater tendency to displace their aggression onto others. Or it may just simply be that we're in situations, and it's the situation that can make anybody engage in those types of behaviors. That, when we look at the number of people who stood up to the Nazis, it was a very, very slim minority who protected Jews, a very slim minority of people who went out to the forest and tried to, fight against the Nazis. It's easy for people to be pulled in to strong types of social groups.
Yeah.
But there may be a personality that is more attractive to them than a more liberal democratic personality.
Yeah.
That's the problem that's the fight essentially between sociologists and personality psychologists. Yeah.
Right.
We could argue that, but I don't think we're going to come up with a decision.
Yeah. I mean, how old is the field of Western psychology? Not very old, right?
We say that it started around the 1870s with the first laboratory in Leipzig, Germany.
So we have
Wilhelm Wundt was the founder of that laboratory. He said, "Let's try to measure the mind."
Yeah, I mean, we have a long way to go, right? So
we have a long, long way to go. Yeah.
And okay, next question. Will there ever be an end to anti-Semitism in our world? Or do you think there are immutable things about this worldview that cannot be completely eradicated?
I would hate to believe, it used to be a theological statement, that the Jews are a cursed nation. They have the blood of Christ upon them, and therefore they will always be hated and they will always be persecuted, and it's appropriate to persecute them. In my day and age, I remember as a kid being called a Christ killer.
Oh, yeah.
However, I also am optimistic because I recall Pope John the 23rd coming out with an encyclical saying that the Jews are not to be blamed, modern day Jews are not to be blamed for the killing of Jesus. That it was the Romans who killed Jesus, and that modern day Jews have no guilt upon them. And it made a tremendous difference in the Roman Catholic Church and in what kids were being taught in parochial schools. And so, yeah, I've seen the change of religious anti-Semitism moving dramatically away. Anti-Semitism, though, that comes from political perspectives, the notion that Jews are going to have conspiracies to control the world. I would hope that with greater opportunities for education, people recognize, how silly that is and why it's being used essentially as a means of enhancing scapegoating to keep certain political ideologies afloat. So, I'm optimistic that things will change for the better, even though right now we're seeing a upsurge in violence against Jews and even more so against Asians.
Yeah. I think that I guess just what concerns me is that the anti-Semitism just seems to change depending on however the world is at the time. Like it may change its shape, but it's still there. But obviously we live in a much different world than like the 15th century. I think we
I
have,
hope.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
then,
we don't see the pogroms that occurred in Eastern Europe. Just
yeah,
uh, at the turn of the 19th century, there was a famous one in Romanian Chisinau, where Jews were slaughtered left and right, even before the Holocaust occurred. We don't we see examples of crazies, attacking Jews with automatic Jewish institutions with automatic weapons, but uh, I think that's isolated. I think that the world is becoming more and more concerned about civil rights of individuals. We're removing a lot of the forces for abuse and discrimination, looking at the policing that was based on biased views where police would get away with doing terrible things. Uh, the was it I guess it was Martin Luther King who said that the arc of justice bends slowly in the
yeah.
direction of greater justice or civil rights. So yeah, I'm optimistic.
And then the second part is important, which is, what do you believe is the course of action for disrupting anti-Semitism? Like how do we challenge it? And especially because from a psychology perspective, um,
Yeah. Again, it depends on the theory that you hold, but I'm combining a whole bunch of theories by saying get people to work together,
right,
get groups, teach kids at the youngest age to embrace diversity as a strength, not as just simply tolerance for different people, but rather it's wonderful to be in a diverse group. It's wonderful to learn about the customs and beliefs of different people. It's wonderful to learn about heroes from every single group. Uh, I think that devoting months to women education about feminism, education about uh, Black history, education about Jewish history, allows people to be proud about their group and it allows people to embrace the idea of having a diverse set of friends. And eventually we'll get there.
great. Um, uh, one thing I was thinking about with this like talk is that I keep wondering how an anti-Semitic thinking individual would view this, right? Um, and this talk, right?
Oh, it's another Jewish conspiracy.
Well, I'm thinking
It's an attempt to brainwash the world.
it's the perfect anathema because we are in a liberal college setting. We are, of course, being anti-Semitic, but we're also being very critical of like, um, you know, authoritarian thinking and everything that they might embrace. And I keep thinking that if they were to watch this, they would say that, like, yeah, like what you just said, like you're just obfuscating the truth. But this is all an elaborate ploy to completely to put a smokescreen on what the truth really is, which that itself kind of for me just is a little bit depressing. But I think that is kind of the answer, what we're looking for, which is like with what you're saying, to like bring people together, that like um I guess, yeah, we need to find a way to communicate our ideas to uh, the anti-Semitic frame of reference. like we have to find a way to
Mhm.
break through that, because there's clearly an issue. Like there's like a pane of glass, or there's like a door, right? There's a door, which is, that door is what I just said, is that like you're not allowing yourself to see the other side because you're being blinded by the view that this is a conspiracy, that this is just part of the system. Um, and I want to bring people together. I just
Mhm.
am worried about that part of it, if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah, you're going to find that there are some people who are, again, one of the components of authoritarianism is anti-interception, who will not look at their own motives, who will not self-examine, who have such strong beliefs in the conspiracies and the bigoted stereotypes that they maintain that you can't get through to them. But for somebody who is somewhere in the middle or towards the bigoted end, but who is open to information, education is the way to
Right.
make all the differences in the world.
Yeah, I was reading about kind of de-radicalizing, uh, in de-radicalizing hate groups, and it suggested that you kind of intercept before things become violent, before violent action is taken. So like when someone is in the early stages, it's easier to kind of get through them than when than like the later stages, I guess. But
There's a whole literature on deprogramming people who got involved in cults, and this is no different than cults. And it's found that the leaders of cults are very knowledgeable, very, very clever in terms of making people believe that they can't interact with their former family, with their other people that may, in fact, challenge the cult's beliefs. Uh,
right.
and so it's very hard to break through. But if you get somebody, as you said, in the early stages and present to them the information from a valid source, from a source that they believe is reliable, as to why the cult's propaganda is inappropriate, you can in fact turn them.
Yeah. I think you could, especially because there are so many examples of, I mean, there's someone like Derek Black, is one example of an individual who was raised in like a white nationalist, like kind of neo-Nazi leaning household, but
Mm.
he like broke out of it in college. Um, Christopher Picciolini, who I think he's more from the world of like old school neo-Nazism, like in the 90s. He broke out of it. These are just some individuals, but they all, like their stories are different, but it is possible. It is possible. I just hope that it there's a way we can transfer the information that will be receptive on the other side.
Well, that's the challenge for you now as the graduate assistant at the Human Rights Institute.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's difficult. They don't. The Human Rights Institute, as well as Rutgers and many other, I guess, educational institutions, have been met with something called no Zoom bombing, in which people like will kind of like intercept Zoom calls and with like racist imagery, and
Mm-hmm.
they are aware of us. They are aware.
Mm-hmm.
I want to find a way to communicate that we're not enemies. Like I'm on your
Mm-hmm.
side, you know. So this has been a wonderful talk. We did get through everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, and again, I appreciate the time you took, and especially with all your research. And this will be available possibly on YouTube, but we are going to disseminate it in the Keen community. So is there anything else you'd like to say on the topic?
No, I think pretty much we've crammed about 3 semesters worth of social
Yeah.
psychology into an hour and a half, and it's been a pleasure. So I want to thank you for inviting me. And I hope to see you sometime when I'm up in the Human Rights Institute and we're all in person again.
Yes, absolutely. And maybe again we can have another talk later on in the future that like maybe touches on some of this stuff, like goes further into some of it. But awesome. So thank you again. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you too. Okay, be well.